Hey guys, you're about to listen to Believe It or Not, and sometimes we say things that, aren't always the nicest.
Yeah, and sometimes we're not experts either because we just Google this stuff.
But you know what? That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're allowed to have opinions, and you're allowed to choose not to listen.
And you're allowed to leave angry comments on our Facebook page.
Please do.
Yeah, but if you do like it, rate us 5 stars on iTunes.
And if you don't like it, please rate us 5 stars on iTunes.
Because you're a good person.
Yeah.
I got hymns here. Get 'em while they're holy, fresh from God's brain to your mouth.
He's God here in this radio station. Smite me! Almighty smiter!
The Bible is black and white.
I have such doubts.
Get out of here, devil!
I'm a God. I'm not the God. I don't think.
And you will know my name is the Lord!
We're on a mission from God.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Believe It or Not.
Oh, that's right. The show where we talk about things we hardly know.
That's right, and we think about things we talk about things we hardly know.
Yeah, specifically with regard to religions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the Lord and the people who follow him, or her, or them. I'm Trevor Poelman.
And I'm Damien Doepping.
And today, Damien, I have a local craft beer here.
Yep.
I have a beard.
Yeah, that has been one unchanging constant since we've started this, I think.
So I think there's only one thing we can talk about, and it's an organization, not an organization, but it's a group of people who love both those things. It's the emerging or the emergent church. Do you know what the emerging church is?
Is this like the cool young people who do church?
Kinda.
Yeah?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
At least they were cool and young 10 years ago, but I still,
so now they're not.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not as cool anymore, but I think they're,
Have they emerged?
I think they've emerged, and they were emerging, and now they're just emerged.
Okay.
But yeah, so the emerging church is cool group of people, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'll start a little bit with my experience with it.
So this is kind of what you've had experience with this.
Yeah,
this
especially
is
near the
first-hand one for you.
end. So it's not what I grew up in, but it's like what I got involved in kind of when I was in the ministry, and this is the kind of the form of theology, quote unquote, that I was into and was kind of my jam near the end.
Okay.
So this is so actually kind of how it started is I did my internship, right, at a church in my 4th year at college, and my youth pastor, like he was my youth pastor like the last couple of years and when I was a teenager, and he was also the guy doing the internship, and he gave me this book by a guy named Brian McLaren called The New Kind of Christian, and we also took a road trip to Toronto because it was in Brockville. So we took a road trip to Toronto to visit a number of churches that were kind of in this movement.
Yeah.
Because he was very interested in it, and he thought it was kind of where the church is going or should be going. And it's kind of like the next kind of movement in the church if it's going to survive.
Almost like a modernization of what they were trying to do then.
Yeah. So they embrace a lot of like postmodern ways of thinking, less black and white, more kind of conversational way of thinking. So it's kind of hard to pin down what someone in the emerging church believes.
Okay, so it's a little more of a fluid doctrine.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, because it's more so there's a huge emphasis on conversation and narrative. So that's kind of how they view the Bible, and it's kind of how they view theology is through just talking about your experience, and then even like viewing the Bible as a narrative. And it's like, it's
more for lessons and less for like strict dogma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it allows for like if you really feel like you're LGBT and you still want to be a Christian and you're battling because the Bible says that you're not supposed to be this way, but you feel like this is who you are, then it's not going to be just this is what the Bible says, so therefore it's like, okay, well, why do these things contradict each other? Yeah. And kind of working that through.
So it's almost a way to kind of allow people to justify their faith with, or not justify, but
reconcile, I guess.
Yeah. With kind of modern day life.
Yeah. It's also a response, I think, to the fact that a lot of people were leaving the church and are leaving the church.
Yeah. That's...
And, some churches are just giving away free footballs or whatever, free gifts to newcomers.
Oh, like,
or
old baseball stadiums would do. They'd have like the bobblehead day or whatever.
Actually, it was a funny story. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this, but I'm going to. My brother was working at a church, and they were talking about, or he was volunteering, and they were talking about a new outreach program. And this one guy came up with these, really good ideas of like just ways to help the community. And he's like, if we're gonna get people on board with this stuff, we have to show that it works and we're doing good things. So let's just do a bunch of good things for the community. So he planned a bunch of outreach events and things like that, cleaning up neighborhoods or like volunteering at soup kitchens, things like that. And then someone was like, okay, but here's my idea. What if we hand out free light bulbs?
Okay.
With notes on it, something about be the light of the world. And we'll hand those out, so then people get a free energy-saving light bulb, so we're helping the environment. Plus, there's our church's address on it, so they'll come and they'll visit our...
So in a way, this movement is also about how the church is getting so gimmicky and desperate.
Well, it's kind of a reaction to that, too.
Oh, okay, it's a reaction
more like,
to that.
That's not the answer, right? Like, it's like not that gimmicky stuff that's the answer. That's not why people are coming to church. They're not coming to church because there's a lot of problems in the church.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this movement is just them trying to react to that.
Uncomfortable pews.
Actually, that was one of the first things that went with a lot of it. Yeah, they would like have couches and things like that, or like kind of have a more coffee shop mentality. Nice. I know a lot of them, I mentioned the craft beer, a lot of them would meet in pubs and have, church in pubs and things like that.
Pub church,
yeah. So, and like I said, a lot of the belief systems, it's hard to pin it down. There's going to be conservatives to liberals. Mostly it's going to be liberals, though, because it's hard to be a conservative with this kind of mindset. So there was this, I want to call him, is douche canoe a good word?
Sure.
But he would probably go by pastor. So I would call him a douche canoe, but he would call himself a pastor.
Why would you call him that, I guess?
He once referred to women as penis houses.
Oh.
Yeah, because they're a house for your penis.
Okay.
And that's their main function. He also said a bunch of other sexist things like that, and he was kind of a
so not a very good dude.
Not a very good dude. He was a terrible boss, I guess, at their church.
Which church? Sorry, where was this?
This was Mars Hills Church in Seattle,
Washington.
And his name is Mark Driscoll.
And is this kind of where this stuff is all coming out?
No, but he defined the emergent church into categories that a lot of people still go by.
Oh, okay, so this Dillweed kind of defined it,
because he was considered to be part of it, and he kind of embraced that as because it's cool and hip, but he wasn't at all.
Yeah.
So he kind of said, "Oh no, there's different branches of it." So I'm just going to read those branches. So he considered himself part of the relevant side of it, and that's basically you still have old theology, you still have the same old theology, but you're changing up how you deliver the message.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's almost like disguised as like conversational, right? Like
it's hiding them. It's like when you're cooking for kids and you mix the vegetables into something.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like that. You're hiding it in there.
But still, it's still vegetables, so it's still going to kill you. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And then there's also Reconstructionist. So it's a little more liberal, but more centrist. It's not the kind of Baptist or Calvinist or whatever old school theology, but there's still like most of the theology is going to be the same. Mm-hmm. And then there's the revisionists is what he called it. And that's kind of the rest of the emerging church and like
the
more progressive people. Mm-hmm. And so those are the people that I think we'll talk about most today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple other of their beliefs, embracing or reacting to a postmodern worldview. I guess we talked about that, where it's trying to change how you communicate with how people are thinking nowadays.
I get that.
Yeah.
You're kind of tailoring the message to, modern day sensibilities, right? So it's going to be a lot of things that more traditionalists are going to view as bad or evil or against doctrine, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about theology being viewed as a conversation. Lots of emphasis on work, social justice, things like that, like doing things as opposed to just
kind of saying these things.
that you believe.
It's actions behind the messages.
More focus on what you do right now on Earth as to where you're going to be. Like it's less, I'm going to go to heaven someday, so I have to prepare myself to that, more so on what can I do right now to make this world a better place, so that it's better for future generations, things like that. One guy we'll talk about a little bit more, his name is Doug Pagitt, and I heard him say it like the forevermore when he talked about the afterlife. So it's less about just living, getting ready to live in heaven forever, but like preparing for the forevermore. So you're preparing your soul or whatever for the afterlife, but you're also preparing this world for future generations and things like that.
I mean, you would think that would be something that they'd want to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So that other people can be,
yeah.
But I guess it doesn't always work that way.
Mm-mm. Kids these days. I mean, churches these days.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So left's emphasis on apologetics and things like that in this. So they're not trying to prove that that their beliefs are... That was a weird sound I just made.
Oh, it's okay. I've been making them all day, so...
They're not trying to prove that their beliefs are, like, right and sound. It's like, these are the beliefs we have, and this is how we're going to react to it.
Okay.
So I think it's that way they're like, okay, this is the belief system I'm raised in. This is what I feel comfortable in.
So is this more in line with, like, the idea of, like, a personal God, and while you have these things, it's more about your relationship with that kind of thing, rather than... more the dogmatic doctrine kind of big church relationship with it?
But and they say they stress less the personal individual relationship because they want it to be a relationship as a community. Like they want to be supportive of other ideas and things like that. So it's less about just your personal prayer time or whatever, and more about like working with others to...
Okay, so it's more a community based thing.
Yeah.
And I guess that's another way they're trying to bring people in, is with that whole social aspect of the church.
Yeah.
That I know a lot of people kind of feel they don't have, or maybe don't have without the church too. So
Yeah, so a lot of neat stuff, a lot of interesting ideas, I think. Like I feel like it was kind of going in the right direction,
Yeah. When you were involved,
when I was involved, and I don't know, there was issues I think then too, but But for me, it just felt like the right kind of place to be in. Mm-hmm. I mentioned Brian McLaren, and so that was the first book I read by him, was New Kind of Christian. He has a trilogy of the New Kind of Christians. And in one of them, he talks about the doctrine of hell. And I think we talked a little bit on the podcast before about how my views on hell changed first before I walked away from the faith.
We might have briefly.
Yeah, and basically, like, I stopped believing in hell because theologically it doesn't make sense. Like in the Bible, it's more like random stuff that were put together later to say, oh, this is hell. This is referring to hell. So it'd be things like the grave or like burial, and they refer to that as like, no, they mean hell.
And it almost made it seem like a consequence for not following doctrine.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And they used it more later on for fear mongering and stuff like that. And so Brian McLaren talked a lot about that in his book as he walked away from the doctrine of hell. Mm-hmm. So he was one of the bigger kind of leaders of this movement, kind of early on getting it started. And then there was Rob Bell. Rob Bell, a very interesting guy. I think he's a great writer. I love listening to him talk. Even now, like he does a lot of stuff with Pete Holmes, like the comedian Pete Holmes. They're like really good friends, and they do different events and stuff together. So he's very interesting to listen to. Mm-hmm. He wrote a book called Velvet Elvis that I really liked. One of the things that really impacted me was this story he had about a trampoline versus a brick wall, where like if your theology is based on a trampoline or a brick wall, then you remove one piece, like you say, I don't believe Noah's flood happened. Then you remove
the wall will still...
and the wall will crumble if you remove too many things. Okay. Where he talked about more like a trampoline with the springs, where it's like you remove a couple of those, it's still gonna hold up. I don't know. It was a neat analogy at the time, but
Yeah, well, when you think about it more, though, it doesn't really hold up that well.
No, it doesn't.
Because, I mean, a brick wall will still hold up pretty well for a while.
Yeah.
And I think if you take enough springs away, you're going to fall through.
Yeah, it was a bad analogy.
And then you're going to have a broken leg. I'm not saying your analogy was bad. You just...
No, I think his was. But yeah, he also wrote a book called Love Wins a couple years ago.
Love Wins?
And that's when he destroyed the doctrine of hell, basically, too.
Okay.
So he still says he doesn't know, but what his saying is like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it shouldn't be a Christian value to want there to be a hell. And so that's kind of where he came about on that. He also used to make these videos called Numa, and they were like these cool hip videos of him like talking to the camera, and you'd play them at youth group and stuff. Kind
of like a Rick Mercer style, on the street.
Yeah,
thing.
Basically. Actually, there was this other guy, Peter Roland. I don't have a lot about him, but I used to really love his stuff. And I posted a video that he made once on Facebook, and my friend commented like, "Isn't it funny how sermons sound like TED Talks now?" It was so true. Like.
Okay.
He's an interesting guy too. Like I used to really like listening to him speak. He kind of spun things on their head and just had a really interesting way of speaking. He doesn't really consider himself part of the emerging church movement, but a lot of people in the emerging church kind of associate with him and really like having him speak at events and stuff like that. So yeah, that guy's name is Peter Roland. And then Rachel Held Evans. Okay, so she's one that if you ask any Christian who's kind of progressive, like name one person, like one theologian or one like public speaker right now that inspires you, they're all going to say Rachel Held Evans. She's a blogger and an author, and she wrote a book you remember that book, Year of Living Biblically?
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
She did the women version of it. So a year of biblical womanhood, because like it's different rules for women versus men.
The guy who did the original one, was he also a religious person? I thought he was not.
I don't think. No, he wasn't.
He was.
Yeah, he wasn't. And then they made a CBS show about it, and I think it was canceled like right away.
Okay, like I kind of remember when that happened, but I don't think it was something that interested me at the time.
Yeah,
I only really remember hearing about this, I think, from the Daily Show.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I heard it. So.
Yeah, and there's a pastor who did a year of being an atheist, and then
that's an interesting kind of turn. Yeah, I mean, really, to be an atheist, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So is that all it was?
He just involved himself in like atheist events and stuff like that.
But most atheists don't do that.
Yeah, I know. But he's an atheist now. Like,
oh yeah?
Yeah, he
after living the year?
After living the year, he realized he didn't believe in God anymore.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But so Rachel Held Evans, she's kind of speaks up for feminism rights and stuff like that. And then there's a Nadia Bolz-Webber. She has a church in... I didn't even write down where it was. I feel like it's New York, but I feel dumb for not writing down. But yeah, it's a very LGBT inclusive church. And she's really well known. People love her. She's like the badass pastor woman. Her church is called the House for All Sinners and Saints. And then there's Doug Pagitt, and he was one of the big ones that started it too. He's the one I talked about that. So
you're saying this was about 10, 15 years ago when this whole kind of thing was happening?
I mean, the late 90s kind of got it started. And then the first time the word was kind of used was in the 70s. And then there was a church called the Emergent Church. Like that was the name of the church in the 80s. But really, as this movement,
like this one here,
it started more in the late 90s and then throughout the 2000s
in the United States.
Yeah,
and kind of flowing through Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's this. So Doug Pagitt wrote some books. Really publicized. Like he's the one that goes on CNN when they need to talk to somebody from the movement. Basically, he does a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's this guy named Tony Jones. He is the author of a number of books about Christ and about like theology and kind of a postmodern view. He has a different kind of take on the salvation, how it works versus how a lot of Christians traditionally have thought it worked.
Yeah.
So he's an influential author, blogger, podcaster, social media guy, and a wife beater. He beat his wife.
Wow.
So he there's this article about all the evidence that has come out. I'll let you just scroll through
about
from the top
this
about
guy?
this guy. All the physical evidence from hospital reports, psychiatric
jeez.
reports from the wife. You can scroll right to the
my
top.
God. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to the beginning.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let Damien look at this for a sec. I might edit some of it out, but
Julie McMahon felt abandoned and neglected in her marriage. Okay, so there's some stuff about that. There's a big paragraph. Julie McMahon claimed Tony Jones assaulted her in front of her children. Testified that they saw Jones assault McMahon and are frustrated that Jones has lied about the assault and other actions. Okay. Fairview Health Services a total of 4 times in about a month and a half period.
Yeah.
To document and receive treatment for the alleged assault. Did suffer from a shoulder injury. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff here, basically pointing to a lot of emotional and psychological abuse on this.
And physical abuse. Yeah.
Yes.
But you know how this is supposed to be like a transparent kind of movement and stuff like that, and it's supposed to be,
But it was something that they tried to...
all those people I listed still fully support Tony Jones.
Okay.
They still work with him. Brian McLaren wrote a book with him recently, or helped him write a book recently. Rachel Held Evans still works with him, does public speaking with him, even though she has come out against abuse in the past and has been vocal.
The thing about that, I mean, that's something too. It doesn't really matter what your belief system is with that kind of thing. This kind of shit happens all the time, where people get brought out for doing all these horrible things. Yet they still have people who just kind of it's blinders on, and they totally ignore it. I mean, How many people do we know in the media right now where that's kind of happening?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how long did it take for Cosby to finally get to where, there's still people. Chris Brown, too. Yeah. That's another huge one.
Yeah, people support him like crazy.
He's putting out singles still that people are listening to, and this man is a horrible human being.
I overheard a woman once just talking about how Rihanna just exaggerated it for attention.
Oh, yeah, those police photos of her.
Yeah, just total exaggeration.
It was just a makeup tutorial.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something like that where there's so much irrefutable evidence. Proving that this person is a horrible person. Yet people still there were I remember with that one, people were saying well, if I was his girlfriend, I'd let him do that to me. Yeah. It's how batshit insane do you have to be to think that's okay?
Yeah. It's insane. And so I've talked with Julie, his ex-wife, a couple of times just over social media.
Really?
We've kind of just had are friendly with each other online. I mentioned before that I talked to Jim Baker's son.
Yes,
that was him defending.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a nice guy for the most part, but he just took his side. He took Tony's side. I messaged Peter Roland's. I tweeted at him. He said, "Send me an email and we'll talk." He never responded to my email.
How much do you think of it is less them defending them because they believe they're innocent, and more they're defending them because they don't want to believe that it's true?
Yeah, and he's
more
also
of a denial of.
He helps them get book sales. He helps them get promoted.
I guess that's true too.
He has a podcast. He has a lot of influence in different podcasts and different things, and he sets up a lot of these events that he promotes it and he puts them on.
Yeah, so sometimes that's a hard thing to
kind of a lot of money if they walk away.
There you go. Comes back to the money, right?
Yeah, exactly. Steph Drury, wonderful woman. She runs Stuff Christian Culture Likes, and she got Mark Driscoll fired basically from his church in Seattle, and she's been outspoken about Tony Jones, but it's to no avail. She used to be friendly with a lot of these people too, and they all turned their back on her because she was outspoken against Tony Jones.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. We got to the money.
Yeah.
Because there's not really a centralized base for this movement.
No.
Right? It's more individualistic and just kind of separate churches, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do we know what kind of income? Because especially with social media and stuff like that, is that something where some of these people are making shitloads of money off of this? Or?
I think they would make some if from blogging, they would get some ads
obviously
and stuff,
blogging,
but,
and like the authors will.
Yeah, and the authors make a lot of money. So I think these guys just make most of their money from book sales and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not, they don't do the classic like donate to me and you'll
because like I'm wondering like how much, not televangelist, but that same kind of idea where you're finding just another niche in order to kind of
I wonder,
get it in there and sell. I'm sure there's always going to be some people who are in it for that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, and maybe their hands are tied because it's like this is their only form of income, and if they flip on them, but still. Ugh.
I don't think your hands are ever really tied for that.
No,
kind of
I don't
thing.
think so either. Yeah,
I don't think you really are.
Yeah,
you can find something else.
It's true. Like stand up against abuse.
I mean, at the same time too, if you're doing something and you believe it, and you're making money from it, then I don't necessarily think that's bad inherently.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So Tony has blocked me on Twitter. So that's a point of pride, I guess. Yeah, he hasn't blocked us on our Believe It or Not Twitter yet.
Well, maybe after this.
Yeah, maybe after this we'll see. We'll add him, see if he wants to listen.
Okay.
Call us up, Tony. We'll talk.
Hey, we'll talk. Yeah. We'll have you live on the air.
Yeah.
We'll have a fair discussion.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever done a phone call, but
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's all I have about the emerging church. Kind of some great things. Some awful things.
Yeah.
And
I have a few questions that you might or might not be able to. First one is what's the kind of state of the emerging church movement now? Is it as defined as it was, say, 10 years ago? Is it a little more like streamlined? Is it a little more concentrated? Or is it just another thing that's kind of some people are like, oh yeah, this is more how I feel?
I think it's more the latter. Like it's more, I think it's kind of plateaued. I don't think it's
going anywhere.
Yeah, going anywhere big.
They've probably reached all the people who they're going to reach.
For a while, because it's a big change, but it's also after a while it just becomes the norm, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm sure it's a great haven for people who are not sure if they want to leave the church or not, and are looking for something maybe that will help them kind of bridge, I guess.
That kind of ties into my next question, which might be a little more personal for you, so feel free. From what I'm getting from it, it seems almost like this is, like you were saying, it's a bridge from whether or not you believe or not. Do you feel that kind of following this movement helped you to break away from the church?
Oh, I definitely think so, yeah.
Do you feel it was like a cause of, or it was just something that allowed you to be like, wait a minute, I can think about this stuff and I can question this stuff?
I think it helped me question things. I think I was already like, I remember my big thing was all truth is God's truth, and that was basically like, if God is real, then there's nothing that can be revealed that would make me believe in him less if he was real. Does that make any sense? Like,
it was like an all truth, and there's nothing that can really refute that, right?
Yeah, if it's all true, then nothing can refute it. So it was like I allowed myself that at one point when I was questioning things, and then I know I think it was a good bridge for me. Like even Pete like reading stuff from Peter Rollins or seeing his talk, I think helped me to question things, and I do appreciate some of the things I learned from those guys. Even Rob Bell, I think, I don't know anything about his new book actually, but I think he might have even gone an extra step. He's also the one that's least supporting Tony Jones. He's kind of has grown some distance.
Do you think that had things gone differently, or you'd come into this kind of movement sooner, you might have still stayed within it?
It's possible. It's very possible.
I mean, these are all hypotheticals.
Well, the thing
is,
it's
very tricky to answer these. I understand. It's something that I know that you experience firsthand, and as someone who never had to experience it.
It's funny. I went to a church for a while called Friends Church in Calgary, and I went about a month or two, and it was interesting. They had a very laid back approach to like theology, and the guy would kind of. He felt honest in what he was talking about, like his research and stuff like that. And I remember one sermon he was talking about, someone challenged him on whether premarital sex was actually considered a sin in the Bible. And he's like, of course it is. And then he's like, but I had to step back and look at it, and I realized it's not. So he talked about that, and that was kind of interesting to hear
nice
in a
to
church.
See that,
he definitely talked about like things to be careful of and stuff like that, and he still kind of went back to he's probably not, but it's not completely wrong or whatever. But so it was an interesting thing, but also I felt it was the most unwelcoming place I've ever been to, which was funny.
That's interesting. That's really interesting, because it's something I've been to church very, very few times. I could probably count on my hands how many times I've been to a church for a service or either a wedding or a funeral. That's usually it. And for the most part, like the pastors or whomever, they're always fairly welcoming and inviting. Yet I still feel like such an outsider every time I've been in there.
Yeah, and it's funny because it was near the end for me, so it was like one of the last churches I ever attended where I was like, I'm gonna give this a shot, and I was just like every Sunday I would go there. No one would talk to me. They had Starbucks coffee, and that was a big selling point, and I'd stand over, grab some coffee, and then kind of stand there like waiting for somebody to approach me, and then nobody ever did. And then I went there for a couple weeks, and I'm like, I'm done.
See, I think that's an interesting thing too, because I know like some people would want to go because they'd want people to approach them, but conversely, I if I was to go there, I would not want people to approach me at all. And just like, please don't talk to me. Yeah. If I want to talk to you, I'll come to you. So,
so that makes sense. Maybe they talked about that before. Like
they might have been like, listen, if they want to talk, they'll come and talk to you. Just let them ease in. So I guess it kind of goes both ways. It's, you can't please everybody.
Yeah,
right?
it's true. Yeah.
Or maybe they just hated you and they're like, maybe I hope this jerk gets out of here and we never have to see him again.
I was wearing a shirt that said "fuck this place." So.
You know what it probably was? Then the week when you didn't show up, they had a big party and then they said, "Oh, let's get back to the fire and brimstone."
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I have about that.
Nice.
And so let's just do a Christian rock lyric.
All right, what do we got today?
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
Okay, so I found this song today, and it blew me away. Okay, so this guy's named Brian Duncan.
Brian Duncan.
He was like a gospel singer who decided to make a rap song.
Oh.
Yeah, so here's some lyrics. The song's called Don't You Wanna Rap?
Okay, yeah.
All right, I'll give it a shot. My name is Brian D, and I'm a screaming machine. I sing by tearing it up. I like it loud if it's clean. A full tilt rhythm you can understand. I can tour the world with the Econo Band. On a mission from God, I like to call him a friend. I think that people are sick and he's the meadow sin. I'm saying love is the key, not an animosity. And I'm snatching all your children from the enemy, if you get.
Okay, this is one that I think I need to hear in context.
Okay.
I know we're not going to do it now. I'll have to listen to it later. But this is something where rap is a hard thing to kind of... Because anytime you just read a rap, it always sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. But what you got to picture is an old white guy.
That's what I'm saying.
In the 90s. Rapping.
I want to hear this terrible flow.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. And the reason I chose that one is because it's another appeal to the youths trying to get...
sad grasping at straws. Yeah.
So, yeah.
The funny thing about something like that is, don't you realize how it's doing the opposite? It's a lot more alienating than it is, like saying, like, we're cool, we know what's up.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you don't.
No, you're not. Let's have a convo. Yeah, so if you like this, rate us on iTunes.
And if you have any problems or questions or anything you want to us to address, feel free to send us an email, direct message, any of that stuff.
Yeah, and we'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk for hours.
Talk for hours. And have a great day and don't support abusers.
Yeah, stay away from those guys or gals or whomever. They're all bad people if they're abusing you.